you. Could plant at my medicine house garden. Thank you.
Great. Anything you want to say to Johnny Moses?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right. Very good, Mona. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I also wanted to extend an invitation to you all we have medicine circles every Sunday at our Swinomish Medicine House. That's near Lackawanna, Washington. The Swinomish Indian Reservation's across the water there from Lackawanna. And our medicine house, Shay has directions how to get Shay here, and Anita. And, so if you ever want to come to see us, we meet there usually after 2, or this Sunday will be after 3. We'll meet there tomorrow. We meet there at the medicine house every Sunday. As the Swinomish House was a sanctuary where our medicine people used to hide, practice the medicine when it was against the law for us to drum and sing. And that's where many of the medicine people who lived on this island went to, was Swinomish, when they were ordered to go to the reservations. So some went to Lummi, and a lot of the medicine people chose Swinomish because that's where a lot of the medicine people went to. They could still continue to practice the old spirituality that was from here, called Sasiwas, which we call sacred breath. That's from this land here. So all the people who are from this village here, Sanatewatan and Satakales villages that were right here, they all went to Swinomish, and my ancestors that went there. And the elder that ran that house, she was born here on this island, Grandma Addie Williams. She was born here, and one of the last of her generation to live here. And when they left here during the last epidemic that hit the people, there were many people that died, thousands of people. And out of the village that was here of 3,000 people that time, by the last epidemic, there was 1,000 people, and it went down. This epidemic, when she was a child, about 11 people survived out of 1,000 people, and that was in the 1890s. And so she survived that. She was a child, and so there's lots of stories about it and how the people survived, and they still continue to come back. There were a lot of medicine people continue to stay here. Some intermarried with the pioneers. So we have many of our Samish people who turned white. They're Samish people, but they just have white skin now. And that's continued here. So throughout the islands here, there are still Samish people. There were many other tribes as well, not just Samish, that used to live here. But anyway, just want to extend that invitation to you. And then we're having ghost dance there. It's 25th, June 25th? Yeah, June 25th at the Medicine House in Swinomish. It'll start in the afternoon. And everybody's invited to that if you could travel to Swinomish, June 25th. And it's in celebration of when Wavoka, Jack Wilson, who started the ghost dance religion, he brought it to our people in the 1880s there in the Swinomish Reservation.
Excuse me, when you said there were 11 people who survived, were you talking Orcas Island or on the land?
Just in this village here. Yeah. There were 7 villages here on Orcas Island. Yeah, 7 villages. Aichka. And I always like to share the teachings in the language of this so you can hear the ancient language that was spoken here among our people. There's just a few of us that speak the Samish language today, and it's hoping that it'll continue. It's I'll share the first teaching in Samish and use the dialect from here. And if you're listening, they ask you to respond by saying, we are listening in the Samish language, Sasiwas Samis, which is Inawel, or Inawel means we are listening. You're letting me know you're not asleep yet. Ni itis kuskalalam tenesiam molstimo, sitzel siam nitkunishtethanela, quetinisutish to kana lakela, esum suskunit eats and sitsila. I'm very grateful to be here to share the teachings of our ancestors and the spirits of this land here. I'm very happy and honored that you live here. You're very fortunate to live here on the island, to live with the ancient medicine that is from here. The medicine practice of our people that was called Sasi was a sacred breath. Our people, all these forests were sacred. They prayed and sang, and they lived their lives here in this island in balance with all living. Ni itlakate wishtitsa Steven itis katiste le etem sunsquaneshtakale chleelet sunsenewit. And the reason why we share the teachings today is we want to encourage people to follow their spirit, to follow the love of God, the great spirit. God speaks to us, each and every one of us, every day and through many ways. And sometimes through the wind, through the water, through the birds singing early in the morning, the birds singing in the evening, the animal sounds, different sounds you hear in the forest. God is speaking to you, the great spirit. Sitzel siam. And we are all children of the earth, children of the spirit. And our elders always told us to listen to the spirit. We do not follow any man or woman in our medicine ways. We all work together. We try to help each other. We respect our elders. We do have teachers, leaders, but we don't worship our leaders. We do not worship our elders. We only worship the loving God, the loving Spirit, the great Spirit. And we express that love through our singing. That's another way of praying. We are singing, our dancing, our artwork. All that is an expression of our love for God. The iltuskwe is na elton tleelum siskuni itisti tiwit. Nichts squat to kanange tleelum sutuist each ela. And the old people, Indian people, they always practiced the love and sharing with one another, helping each other. And when the Christians came, they did not understand that we were already practicing. We had not only practiced 10 commandments, but we practiced thousands of commandments, which is the respect of the earth, the respect of people, respect of showing our respect and love for people. And all around the world, the ancient practice, the medicine ways, you'll find it was the same practices, same, I believe, loving the earth, loving nature, loving God, the Great Spirit. That belief was all around the world. The Samish people here, their spirituality was a loving practice that they had. That is what saved many of our native people in the practice, holding on to the ancient ways to survive the epidemics and all the changes. held on to the love of Mother Earth. We knew that if the Mother loved us, our Mother Earth was always there for us, and that our Earth is suffering with us. The changes that we are going through is also the changes that the Earth is going through. Everything we do to the land is done to us or to our children and grandchildren. And so we must protect what is natural and what is beautiful for our children and grandchildren, and not think of ourselves, our own selfishness of what I can do or what I should do, but what we should do, what we can do for each other, and conquering our selfishness, conquering our ego by helping each other through the love and spirit. The earth speaks to us. The spirit speaks to us. My older people, their philosophy was in some ways different than some other cultures. Our people said you cannot love everybody, but you can respect everybody. It's impossible to love everybody. All of you know that. Some people you try your best, there are people you try to love, but something that you just irritates you, or you just can't stand them. But you can respect them and show endurance and show tolerance. My grandmother used to pray this way. My grandmother used to pray in this way for people that she could not stand. She'd say, "Oh, Great Spirit, oh, I cannot stand my relatives. The relative just irritates me every time they come and visit me. They just drive me nuts. Oh, Great Spirit, please, could you please shorten their life so I don't have to put up with them, or shorten my life so I don't have to put up with them." My grandmother had a strange way of praying, and the way she used to pray, she used to cuss in her prayers, and it was just so funny. She'd even do exorcisms and command demons out of people's bodies, cuss the demons out. And she was quite amazing. And she used to make us laugh all the time. We'd make her mad sometimes, and she'd cuss on Sunday. And she'd get mad. She said, "See what you made me do? You made me cuss. Now I got to go to church next Sunday." The Great Spirit knows we only can take so much. And the Great Spirit knows how to work with each and every one at your own limit. So our Indian people always told us we are not trying to be better than anybody or more spiritual than another person. We all have a spirit. We are all equal. We are all brothers and sisters. And sometimes it is very hard. There are people that will come to argue with you. And my grandmother I always like to share this, what my grandmother used to. She'd tell these people, "I'm sorry, I can't argue with you at this time. My mind's not small enough." And she'd always tell people that. And then sometimes she would get mad. It was just so comical to watch her get mad, this elderly lady. She lived to be very old. And she was a very strong person. She lived to 113 years old. Lived to be very old. People would ask her, "How do you know your prayers work?" And she says, "I've lived this long." She said, "I've lived this long, God damn it." That's what my grandmother used to say. Need to wish teachers, and the person that went against me, they're dead, and I'm not. I'm being punished to live 130. She used to drive all over the place, drive a car with no driver's license. She was quite an amazing person. My grandfather was a very kind, loving spirit. He never cussed at all, but my grandmother did. And it was quite funny because, she had worked in a logging camp. She was one of the few women loggers back in those days. So she cussed like a logger. I guess that's where she learned it. My grandfather used to say, oh, she learned that language because she knew how to irritate the demons. That's what my grandfather used to say. I used to ask my grandfather, how come she has to cuss like that and talk like that? She says, well, she knows how to irritate the demons. That was her specialty. That's why she's learned that language. And then she knows how to chase away relatives that we can't stand. So it's like old medicine teachings that anyone can practice. I encourage you to do that if it helps you. I was prophesied among our people that this medicine would go out to people would practice this ancient ways because they were to save the earth. And these ancient ways that people adopt are medicine ways. I think the world would have been a lot better place if more of our people practiced the ways of nature. And to realize that the forests and all these cathedrals, that was our great cathedral, that our Mother Earth is a beautiful church. It's the first church that God gave us. It's this beautiful, the mountains, the forests, the rivers, the lake, all these beautiful things are so beautiful and made by the Great Spirit. And it continuously reminds us of our Mother Earth, our sacred Mother. That on this Mother's Day that we all have the same Mother, our Mother Earth. When my friends were telling me recently that they had heard our Grandma Mary, a lot of you got to meet her. She is going to be in vacation, a prayer at the powwow. There's a powwow going on in Edmonds, Washington this weekend, a Mother's Day powwow. And she said that she was going to share the what was it, how she said?
She's going to be grateful for the mother of the 4 favorite colors of Creator.
The 4 favorite colors of Creator. And I thought that was a wonderful way to thank all our mothers of the 4 colors. And the more of that, of teaching each other how to be open-minded and open hearts. And we have to unlearn a lot of things of the different dogmas and things that we have been forced to learn from our past, to learn other things, other ways of healing ourselves, and ways that are natural, the things that are not unnatural. One elder said that practicing our medicine ways is people are free, and some people who are stuck in certain religions, dogmatic religions, are like dogs on a leash who are mad at dogs that are free, have no leash. There's so many people that are on a leash, controlled and brainwashed. So I'm very grateful When I came, I was the last generation to go to boarding school in Canada on my mother's side, her people. And the boarding school continued in Canada and British Columbia until 1976. And so they were still assimilating Native people to turn them into westernized people or be part of the Caucasoid Mania Society, as my grandmother used to say. And we'd come home from the boarding school and my grandmother would say, how have you been brainwashed today? What did you learn about brainwashing? And we didn't know what she was talking about our brains being washed. How could they wash our brain? As you know how children are, we come up with all kinds of things. Says, Grandma, they never washed our brain. They told us everything, what to do this and do that, and that we were doing this wrong and doing that. And they told us not to practice our Indian ways. It's bad for our health. My grandmother says, well, there are some Indians that are bad for your health, but not all of them. Just like in every culture, there's bad people and good people. We did not lose our language because my grandparents, that's all they spoke was their native language at home. So we were lucky. We were much more luckier than other children who lost their language because their parents and grandparents had went to the boarding schools, were brainwashed. And you pray, and when you go into the forest or go to the water, and you have your hands out with this way of thanking everybody, the love, and you pray, and the Great Spirit will give you a song. Will give you a song. Sometimes your own cry will turn into a song. Some of you already have a song already that is just buried deep in your soul, just ready to be shared. And when you share that song with nature, maybe that song, it will be healing for you, or maybe it'll be healing for someone else. So I encourage you to share your song that lives within your soul. Nobody can take that out from you. And sometimes you'll learn many different songs. And sometimes you'll sing a song and then you won't remember it anymore. That song was just for that time, that day. And it'll never come back to you, but maybe another song will.
You know
That's sometimes how songs are. Songs are a living spirit. They're like was all that in nature in the forest. My grandmother used to tell us to take naps in the forest, rest, and go in the forest and rest. And sometimes you can have wonderful dreams, a wonderful rest there. I encourage you to do that and to pray for that, or have a tent and somewhere in the forest and have time to yourself. It is a wonderful experience to let your spirit grow. And this is how you can get stronger and stronger in your life, in your spiritual life. I am just so thankful for all the children here and the animals and all the people that are here. It's just like the way it is in our communities or our gatherings. Our elders always say when the children are making noises, we know the presence of God is here. And my grandmother also used to say, we also know the presence of the devil's here too. She says, hopefully none of you named your children Damien. Ni itiwitil kakalela with the nestistiwen, ni itishkwa kalela, ni itiwishtil kalela. My grandmother also used to tell people in church, everybody's holy, we all have one. We're all holier than thou. In other words, she was saying we're all assholes. She would say it in our native language, and people would be just shocked and my grandfather would roll his eyes and say, oh God, there she goes again. She always has to say something. And my grandfather was a very strong praying person, hands-on healer. And the healings, those of you who got to come to our healing ceremony, we had one the last time we were here. And in our Indian ceremonies, healing ceremony, we tell people not to wear any false things or falsies or anything because they come off, And there are lots of funny stories. My grandfather, he'd be praying in the healing ceremony. And when again, under the healing spirit or the Holy Spirit, sometimes they tremble, they shake, My grandfather, he'd be shaking. He went to pray for this one lady. Oh, I feel, this evil spirit in my hands. Oh, just feels no life in it. He pulled it off there, he threw it, and here he had pulled this lady's wig off. And the wig was just flying across and landed, it was an altar like that. Landed on the candles and they just blew up. All the hairspray. People were screaming, Jesus, oh my Jesus. My grandfather was still praying, oh, the spirit is, I could hear the evil spirit blowing up. There'd be shaky going back to the lady was still sitting there calm, relaxed there. She was sitting there all, with her poor thing, just her hair was all in bobby pins, stuck, but her wig was pulled off. My grandfather went towards her, start working on her face. Oh, I got something else. Oh, there's something in my hand. And he raised his hand. He had 2 eyelashes stuck in his head. Got the evil spirits off him. Here, she start tears coming. They're just black, all the mascara. Just black coming down. And he opened his eyes. Oh, the evil spirit's coming out of her eyes. And my grandmother screamed. Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness. The lady, after they got done with her, she came to and she says, where's my hair? She ran out of the church. She never came back to church again. My grandmother thought she must have been healed. So healing miracles can happen, and really unusual things happen. When they say the Spirit works in strange and mysterious ways, it surely does. One time, this was really funny. My grandmother had a candle and she was praying, lighting. And then this other lady, she had bent over and she farted. And the candle went right out. And my grandmother was going like that. She said, already evil spirit. That's so evil. That evil spirit smelled so terrible. Even my candle went out. And that lady farted so strongly, she blew the candle out when she had bent over. My grandfather said, well, thank God she didn't sit on it. Would have melted the candle. So we've seen many strange things in our ceremonies, and it's no wonder the Christian priests or missionaries. But I always enjoyed traveling with my grandparents as a child and through my life, and helping them, sing for them, and they would pray for people. And it was such a wonderful experience, and also traveling with other elders. And they were my best friends growing up as a child. That was the friends I had, were elderly people. And I think this is wonderful, to raise your children to be surrounded by elders. The children grow up with a type of respect for the elders, the sacredness of life, how short life really is. Our life is very precious. We don't know when the Great Spirit will take us. We're not promised. We're not promised tomorrow. We're not promised. But we can enjoy our life the best way we can, and encourage you to always give thanks to the Great Spirit. Thank God. No matter what religion you belong to, it's all the same God. God has many different names. You can thank God and love yourself and ask God, please, God, teach me to love myself. Please, God, help me to love myself. Help me to love people, to care for people. And at your limit, follow your spirit. Because like I said, we can't love everybody, but you can respect everybody. Iti wisniches kwalela lelemthenistins. And the teachings I share are all from my elders and my family and other elders I learned from. I don't have no secret teachings. They're all teachings from the earth. Mother Earth freely shares her teachings that are all the same. They're teachings of survival, teachings of living, if you want to live in a community, teachings of caring for one another. And the children, were always taken care of by everybody. In our culture, we had many mothers and fathers. A child was disciplined by Allah, and they respect that children were never hurt. They were told stories, they were talked to. And that's how they were disciplined in our culture. And it was such a wonderful, a painless way of growing up, of hearing stories. And our grandmothers had a strange way of strengthening our mind. They tell us all these horrible, scary stories about the forest monsters and that like to eat children. And then they give us a bucket. Go get some water now. And the water, it's quite a ways out, a few yards into the forest to get water. And Niti was just, you learn to conquer your monsters. And though Niti we the elders were always there with us, watching over us. Even when we would go out to our first time going to pray and fast in the forest, they'd follow us. We did not know that at that time as children, but we'd go out and here our elders were watching over us, making sure that nothing happened to us. And as we got older and older, we'd go farther and farther away from the village, farther away from people, to fast and to pray, to be alone with nature. And then at the time the elders were all gone, and we were by ourselves, as adults, having to go by ourselves on our vision quest. And that's the way our people were here on these islands here, how they used to train the young people at a very young age to strengthen themselves, to live, not to be afraid of the forest. We knew how to live. If we got lost in the forest, we would know what foods to eat. And So children hardly ever really got lost in the forest because they went everywhere in the forest with their elders or the older people. And so the children were never afraid of the forest. And it's a shame now that people get lost in the forest, even die in the forest, because they don't know the forest. They've been taught to conquer. It's the enemy or whatever, or it's alien. But it's not. It's part of us. The nature is part of us, and we have to get to know it. And I'm very grateful to the people who are trying to save the forest and the water and the land, and we must not give up on that. Keep encouraging our brothers and sisters who do that their work. We can pray for them, keep our prayers, pray for them, and encourage them. So we have a home for our children. And maybe someday people will start. I know in some communities they try to live in the barter system, trade and share, live that way. My grandmother used to say that when she was growing up, she never knew what money looked like. And money, people who did make money in them days was the gold coins they had and the Victorian age. And the native people would use them for decorations, to decorate their regalia for the potlatches and have gold coins. And they thought it was pretty. But it didn't mean nothing to them. It was just decoration. Until later on, the next generation began to value more the money. But she said it was a beautiful way to barter, how people used to trade and live without money. In the Itikan, if someone wanted to go into the city, people would put their money together and donate and give the person money and tell them to buy cloth or buy something for them or whatever, or buy themselves something. But people always used to help each other. They didn't know that money would ever take over their next generation. Whoever thought that people would be ruled by the almighty, they call the almighty dollar. We have to survive on that, and that's the way we survive today. But I believe that there's a day coming where people will return to helping one another. People are forced now in some ways to help each other because there's no jobs, there's no money, and there's some communities who just have to help each other. People are having to grow food again. My grandmother said in the Depression time, there was a terrible thing that happened to many of the white people. The Indian people, it didn't bother them because the Depression time came when Christopher Columbus came here. So we had 500 years of depression already. But she said when the Depression time came, the Indian people were already living off the land still. And at that time, people were growing food. And so they would help their white brothers and sisters. So many of the stories throughout these islands and the Skagit Valley, the Indian people and the pioneers at that time helped each other. There's stories, many stories like that, where they helped each other without money. There was no more money, and so people had to help each other. And she said it was a wonderful thing that people got to conquer their racism. They no longer could just, well, that's an Indian or that's a white man. We can't. They would share food together, help each other, feed each other's families, because people were starving, people were hungry. I think maybe that will happen someday. But I think that if everyone grew food, that we'd all be rich all the time. And when we do the medicine dances and the songs, we pray for all to be renewed, to come back. And I believe that a lot of good things are coming back. The salmon has come back to some of the places that thought that had died out. Some places, I was watching this program of the Walla Walla Indians, all the way over there in Walla Walla. They had opened the creeks and the salmon had come all the way, that's a long ways into Walla Walla country. The salmon came all the way back when they opened the dams and they got rid of one of the dams there and opened for the salmon to spawn again. So I really have hope and faith and that it will continue. But the more we tell people and educate one another and we pray together, through the Spirit, we can repair the soul of our people, repair the soul of our society that has been damaged, this Western society, which we are all part of, whether we want to be or not. We all have a responsibility to pray for our own soul and then pray for where we live. I believe that a good healing can happen. I have hope and faith. When I encourage you to do that also, to in the morning, to pray ask the Great Spirit to help bring the gift to our young people to help save nature, help to save our brothers and sisters, the animal people, the plant people, the tree people. It's our job to speak for them. They speak for us in the other world and other places, and when we need help. There's a story of a grandmother whose she had lost her granddaughter. And one time, a granddaughter who had become lost she was a bratty child, she did not listen. There's a brat in every culture, and brats, and it doesn't matter how much teachings they get, they don't listen, so they become lost. And so her grandchild got lost in the forest, and so she talked to one tree in the story. She talks to one tree, and then that tree tells the other tree, and the other tree tells the other tree, and it travels and travels miles and finally they catch up, and this girl falls asleep, leans against the tree, and her mind travels through the trees, her soul, and her grandmother is touching this other tree miles away, and she feels her granddaughter's feelings, and she just has her eyes closed. She just follows her hands from tree to tree to tree until she reaches her granddaughter. And there, the last tree, she touches the last tree, and it's her granddaughter leaning, still sleeping. And she opens her eyes, and she's happy to see her grandma. And the grandmother's, I'm so happy to see my brat. And the granddaughter promises to listen to her grandmother and tries not to be a brat anymore. I thought that was such a beautiful story. It's a true story that happened on this island. It's my grandmother told me of a woman who had lost her granddaughter, and the one time that a child did get lost because she was bratty, didn't want to listen. And that's the way when we can touch, your touch, you don't know how powerful that is. The things you touch, the feelings, and all the ones who touched you, and that passed on their spirit to you, and going back from your grandmother, your great-grandmother, and your great-great-grandmother, your grandfather, all those people who touched, that sacred touch has kept you alive today. And through no matter what hard struggles you go through, you have the touch of the people who really love you. People that you don't even know, they do love you. That is so powerful, the love of God, the love of the Spirit, and love of our Mother Earth. Our Mother Earth is like us. She doesn't have no money, no job. So we get to listen to our Mother Earth when we're unemployed. My grandmother used to say, oh, your mother's unemployed again. I guess she'll hear the teachings from the earth until she gets her next job. But I am very grateful to each and every one, and to the Spirit. And these are people really believed in encouraging one another. And the stories of our people that have been passed on to help each other. You know, sometimes when I pray, sometimes the Spirit will show me things in a picture or a dream. And sometimes a smell even. Of one time there's a smell of this flower. I always, when I'd pray, I'd smell this flower. And I kept on for a long time, until one day I had traveled to a place, this years after, about 6 years, I smelled this flower. And this was in upstate New York, of this particular flower I had smelled. And when I had smelled that flower, and I prayed, and the Spirit had told me that's where this boy was. There was a boy that was lost. And that's where they found the boy was alive. He had gotten lost. But here he was in the midst of all these purple flowers. There he was sitting there crying. They had found him. But that was from 6 years I had smelled that. And that finally was revealed to me 6 years later in upstate New York. And this family who had lost their boy. They were so thankful. The little boy, he gave me a flower, this purple. Purple's my favorite color. So he gave me this purple flower, and he said, thank you. And I was just so happy to see this child, so happy to be found. And he was happy to see his parents. His parents were just so worried, you know. Many of you who have children know what it's like when your child gets lost. But that was the experience I have never forgotten, and I always think about that. Sometimes when we receive things and we don't understand them, I never understood it, and after a while I got kind of irritated. I said, oh, God, why am I smelling this flower again? I'm so sick of tired of smelling it. And it was always at the same time in the evening I'd smell it. But it just showed me how patient the Spirit's, how sometimes our prayers and how things come to be. And when we're shown things, sometimes we're shown things and we don't understand it yet until that happens. So I encourage you not to be too discouraged. Are we getting close to our time now? Okay. But I wanted to share that with you, to encourage you not to give up in your prayers. And sometimes it's easy to give up and say, what's the use of praying? It doesn't do any good. But it does. Sometimes it's answered years later. Sometimes you have to cry for someone who is suffering, and you wonder why you are crying. God gave you the cry to help that person. That's God's love, and the love that you have in your heart that is very powerful. I thank you. This is the way we say thank you, Haichka, and that's how you say Haichka in the Samish language. Haichka CM is the high class people. Haichka CM, Ostimo, high class people. Thank each and every one of you for listening to my bucket mouth and the bucket teachings. And we'll go ahead and close with water blessing song. And I thank our brother here, Shay, and all our loved ones here. all the people who helped out, and I'm just so thankful to the Spirit that I was happy to come here, or looking forward to coming to the island. I was kind of torn between, because they were opening a new Shaker Church in Swinomish, and but we got to go to both. We got to stop there on the way here, so that was really nice. But I always look forward to coming here because of where my ancestors came from here. And it's such a happy experience. It makes me happy to see people in our ancient circle, the Sisiwas medicine. The Sisiwas medicine is open to all people to practice. It's a loving medicine. The Great Spirit is colorblind. The Great Spirit accepts all people. We have all kinds of different tribes these days, you know. I got brothers and sisters who are part Filipino. So they're not Filipino, they're part Indian and Filipino. They're Indopinos. And we got different tribes of all mixes of people. I got nephews and nieces that are mixes of, are part Black American, Hawaiian, and Filipino, and Irish, and Scots, and all kinds of different tribes. But we're all one tribe of people, and that is so a great thing. And so we'll sing the water blessing song to close. Sacred water. Oh.